Hi everyone, I'm Laurie. I am with thelifeexpert.com and also lauriemcdermott.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This channel is all about things that are about life, loving, caring, advocacy, and really figuring out what's important in life and how to fix it and solve it. For example, today I have a woman coming on whose husband had something happen to him at a surgery center. Didn't go as well as they would have liked. And this is her story. Her story helps other people. So if you have a story, let me know. Subscribe to this channel and keep me posted on any story you want to share. I want stories where what you tell people will teach other people what to do so they don't have to figure it out. They can come listen to your story and go, oh, so if that happens to me, I know what to do. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. That's what this channel is all about. Plus, I got vacation stuff on here. Just keep watching, subscribe, because I like to have a lot of fun. And that's what this is. Now, today, not a lot of fun. We have a lady coming on whose husband actually didn't have a good time at the surgery center that he went to when he had a little surgery. And I'm not going to tell you too much of it because I'm going to let the wife speak. Here we go. Okay, so here we are. Here is Jody. Jody, say hello.
Hello.
Girl, you have a story that I really believe other people need to know.
Yeah.
So why don't let's start at the beginning. So you were married how long when you found out your husband got sick?
He wasn't sick. He was having shoulder surgery. So
Sorry,
routines.
wrong person. So you were married how long when you found out your husband was getting needed? Did he fall? Why did he need it?
So we were married for 10 years, together for 12. He was a softball player or a baseball player. So
like a real one? Like paid?
No, like college. And so he threw his whole entire life just all the time. And he got to a point in his early 30s where he's like, I can't even throw a ball with my own kids. Like this sucks. So he had surgery on his one arm 2 years prior to his surgery the second time. And so that surgery the first time was, normal, in and out, did his thing, all of that. Same doctor, same everything. And then 2 years later, he decided to do the other arm because we were having a third child. And so he's like, okay, I got to get,
children are heavy.
Yep. Yeah. I got to get all the arms ready for this. So that was the second surgery.
So while you were pregnant with your third baby,
yes,
he's going into surgery and you've already done it. So you're like, no big deal. Same doctor?
Yep. Same doctor, same surgical center, same everything. Yeah.
So what happened? So you were very casual when you said goodbye to him to go on the off, right?
Yeah, though it was I'm very tapped into my soul. So I speak to God. Like I know what's happening sometimes. And
you get messages. Like
I got messages. Yep.
During this time they go through. Yeah.
So about 2 weeks prior, I was receiving the messages, and it was like there was this sense of fear inside of me, but I didn't know what it was about. Like I thought something was going to happen to him. I thought he was like gonna get the feeling that I had was like he's gonna get mugged or something like that. He had gone to Vegas and just got back a day before he had the surgery. And so there was like that 2 weeks prior, and it was around this time. So his surgery was 11/11 of 2008. And so around this time, a little bit later, around Halloween is the 2 weeks prior, and all of that feeling, you're just really going with the motions in the fall. It feels like every family is so busy in the fall, and it's just like it comes so fast. It's just like boom, boom, boom. And so I was getting the messages a couple weeks prior. On the one hand, it was that the fear, the watch, he needs to watch his back, like that kind of thing. And on the other hand, it was connect with him, pause, touch him, different things like that. So being 15 weeks pregnant, he went to Vegas on a work trip and he asked me to go with him. And I was like, what am I going to do in Vegas? Like, I'm not going, I'm not going to Vegas right now. I've got 2 kids under 5 and I'm 15 weeks pregnant, in the first trimester. Vegas is the last place I want to be. And so, we hold that resent inside of us as wives sometimes when we haven't done our healing work. And so I was like almost punishing him. Like I felt that voice of the punisher coming in to like, how dare he leave me with these children for a week in Vegas and I'm pregnant and all of this. And so I was really working on at the time, that was what, 2008. Do the math.
So how many weeks before this surgery was it?
That he was in Vegas?
Yeah.
It was just 2 days. So he was gone in Vegas for 6 days and then he got back the night before. So he got back November 10th, the night before. And so I was doing the internal work that I knew how to do at that time. And mind you, I was a teacher at the time and I was a pioneer of emotional intelligence, but I was a freaking fool when it came to embodying that in my own home. And so I was feeling that resent coming up, but I was still hearing that higher voice say, let it go, let it go. And so I was working internally at letting all of that go. And that morning he woke up. It was really early, like 5 a.m. And it's dark at that time of year in the morning. And we sort of had an agreement our whole time together that if I can get 5 more minutes of sleep, like just go, leave me alone, like go to work and
so no morning sex. So leave me alone.
No morning sex, no morning conversation, nothing. But that morning, Laurie, I was like, I was woken up with him. And it was like this surge that I couldn't ignore. It was like, wake up, tell him goodbye. And still that little resent voice is like, I don't want to. And I was able to let out, that voice. I was able to let out a sort of a grunt of sorts, like, like, come back, give me a kiss. And I remember hearing the swish of his jacket. He was a general manager of Anheuser-Busch, so he always wore like a, one of those swishy windbreakers. And I remember hearing the swish of his black jacket, but I didn't see him. And that was the last time that he gave me a kiss. So when...
Did he take himself to surgery?
No, his dad did. So, it was like no big deal to me. It was like, okay, you're going to go to the dentist, not a big deal. This was something that was going to happen, that happened 2 years prior. It was going to be in and out. And I was feeling that sense of, when you feel that power come over you, where all of a sudden you just feel like so connected and you're like, I'm going to freaking love my husband up when he gets home. That's what I was feeling. And that was a really pivotal place for me to be because 2 years prior, I had healed so much harboring resent. And thank you, baby Jesus, and all things that are holy. I was able to release enough of that I was able to love him, at least in the way that I could at that time.
Awesome. Okay, so what happened? So he goes into surgery. What did you hear? How did you hear?
He goes into surgery, and I was a STEM instructional coach at the time, so I was going to one of the elementary schools to do a presentation, and I got the call in the car right when I pulled into the parking lot, and I remember hearing her voice and knowing instantly that this was
her?
a nurse that was calling me, and all she said was, "Is this Mrs. Rodenbaugh?" And I said yes, and I knew instantly. It was like, how you hear in the movies when it's like this tunnel and you hear like your whole life is going to change from this moment on. Your whole life is going to change. It was just that voice of the higher power, just like your whole life is changing at this very moment. And she asked me if I could find someone to take me to the hospital. He was actually having surgery at a surgical center and was transferred to a local hospital so that they could work to revive him. And so I was able to go in. Of course, all the teachers and everybody was there. And so I was able to find someone to take me to the hospital that I've never been before. I didn't even know where it was. I didn't even know it existed. And so when I got there, they were basically still trying to revive him. And for about the next 8 hours, they were still trying to revive him. Like, there was still hope. I remember so many people being at the hospital that we know, like pretty much everybody that we know was at the hospital. Everybody's praying. Everybody's there. I mean, he was such an amazing man with such a gift for connection with people. And you don't really see the impact of that until something like this happens. And it was, about 8 hours that we carried out hope. And then we were called as a small family into one of the rooms. And I remember a doctor that I hadn't met all day long. And he's just going on and on and on. And I'm hearing in my head, get to the freaking point, get to the freaking point. And that's when he told me he pronounced my husband dead.
So what did you think in that moment?
In that moment, I went into a self-protective mode. It's like this feeling, again, that you see in the movies where everything just turns to black. And I could hear my father-in-law crying and screaming his grandbabies, and my sister screaming. And I can hear the doctor telling her, calm down, you need to be here for her, and basically lashing out at her. And everything just went black. And all I could see in that moment, like I left my body. I'm seeing myself hovering over myself, like you see in the movies when somebody dies in their hospital bed. That's what it was like. I died. I was like out of my body, viewing myself, and I heard the voice of God say, "This is not where you end." And I saw myself for the very first time. I had went to private schools my whole life. Like, I knew God intellectually, but I didn't know until that moment what it really means and what that relationship really is about, and just how profound it is when you know that it is in you. And when I heard that, I made a decision, and I got back in my body. And the way I navigated that day and in the upcoming days doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever. No logical sense. I felt a sense of peace that a human should not feel during those times. I was able to...
You're way ahead of most people. Like, you have a different elevation that I get. I totally get that. So, because you're very spiritual. So when did you kind of think like, something like that happens? It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
This is routine. What's going on here? What happened? Who first was the first one to make that claim?
Yeah, 100%. Well, it was like, when those things happen, people don't understand the amount of decisions that you have to make in those moments. And you're a fresh young widow with 3 children, or 2 children, 1 on the way, and you're making death decisions about the man that you chose to carry out until you were freaking old. And it was just getting through those questions and trying to figure out how, at the same time of making those decisions, I had to project into our future. So I didn't at all envision us going to a gravesite or anything like that. Like that wasn't going to be the lifestyle that I was going to serve my kids with. I knew that he wasn't there. It didn't make sense. Like he's going to be everywhere. So in that decision, he's going to be everywhere. And I think after those critical decisions, I then started to look at like WTF, like what just happened? What really happened?
Who was the first person to get angry? Because I want to talk about the malpractice leave, because I heard so much. My husband's been in medical, and he's like, every time you go in the hospital, there's a chance he might not come out. And people are like, oh no. You know, like I'm curious, like who was the first person that said, hey, wait a minute?
I don't remember. I don't really remember. But I do remember knowing, I mean, I'm a researcher. I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I'm going to find, like, he was a healthy man. Like, this doesn't just happen. Whether or not something did happen that was natural, I want to know about it.
Right.
I don't want to have
That's what we want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to have
the bottom of it.
I don't want to have this looming
but
thing
they lied
over
to
me.
you, though. What did they tell you?
They told me that he had an allergic reaction, basically, to the medicine. Right,
okay.
right.
Okay, so this is the story, right? Doctor says, here, this is the story. So that is taken home. And why did that not just be the end? What changed in your family that made someone go, hold on a second?
Like you said, I'm not normal. I do not follow.
So it was you.
It was me.
I'm getting some readings, and this is what
everybody.
From the grave.
I am lucky to have people in my life, my close knit family and his family. I'm very close to his family. I am lucky enough to have those people that trust me. I have such a strong conviction and such a strong intuition that they are going. Whatever I say is done with such conviction that they can't help but follow me.
I love that. And you're so lucky. But what happened? So like you get this news. How many days later or minutes later were you like, hold on a second?
I believe it was in the first. So after we got, the logistical things done and getting through the celebration of life and all of that, which was about a week. It was after that. Because I was in, for lack of a better phrase, entertainment mode, meaning I was there for other people, even though they were there for me. Do you know what I mean? And so I was in that giving mode of this is a celebration for him and everything was going out. And then once I, was now just looking at me, I was like, it was in my quiet secret thoughts of like, what just happened? And so it was in the first couple of weeks. And what I did was I just started researching, and I'm so divinely guided that I'm just led to the next clue and the next clue and the next clue. And I found a doctor that discovered lipid reversal, which is it's a protocol that was in place at that time, but with anesthesia, they didn't at that time have any particular protocol that everybody should follow. It was more so of, this is a recommendation. You can follow it or not. And this doctor had been practicing for 33 years. He'd never had any problem. He'd been doing the same thing for 33 years. But that was what hit me, because we're here to evolve. And if we've been doing the same thing over and over again, we become robots. And that's the thing about a surgical center, is it's just psh, 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 in and out, in and out, in and out.
Get them in, get them out. Ka-ching, ka-ching. We really don't care about you because we're actually working to grow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So somehow, some way you figured out that, or they told you that the drug they gave him, which is called
bupivacaine.
Good Lord. Why do they make them so long and complicated?
Girl, I don't know. And I know of so much more than I ever wanted to know about anesthesia.
And amen for you.
Yeah.
Amen for you. So they gave him something. It was anesthesia.
Yeah.
And he he had an allergic reaction to it.
He didn't have an allergic reaction. They accidentally injected him into his main artery.
Okay, so that's so interesting. So that takes place inside of a surgery center if someone goofs. Oops.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How do you find out that truth?
Yeah. We had so many people from the ambulance, the people that were on the ambulance, that it was like, you know how they say 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Yes.
6 degrees of, his name
I think I'm one, but yes.
Yeah. 6 degrees of Thor. That was my husband's name, Thor. 6 degrees of Thor.
Okay.
And every place we looked, somebody had a story. There was some kind of connection. There was some kind of backdoor thing that was placed for us, you know? And yeah, it was just
how did you get that information that was put into the wrong vein? Like that was like, you know what I mean? Those are secrets inside of the surgery center.
Yeah. That was done during the investigation.
So someone coughed up.
Yes, it was done in the autopsy report as well as.
Of course. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can find that out. Wait a minute, in the autopsy, this is in the wrong vein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The amount that was in his system, you couldn't deny it. Okay. You couldn't deny it. The amount that was found in his blood system, and they actually put him. The reason why they took him to the hospital, one of the reasons why, is they had a bypass machine. They thought they could bypass his heart to get the medication out of the system, but the medication did what it was supposed to do and froze the muscle being his heart, though.
Okay. So did you find that out first, or did you start doing things about the allergic reaction?
No, I didn't. Actually, I was not at all. I did not at all. I think I started to go, like I peeked into that, but I was not at all drawn to researching the allergic reaction. It just didn't jive. It didn't make sense. It wasn't where I was being led. And so I wanted to know how to prevent this from happening. You know, obviously with your story, you never want anyone to endure the kind of pain that you have endured. Mm-hmm. I don't ever want anyone to have to endure that pain that I endured. So I take it as my personal responsibility to get to the bottom of it, not to be like, oh, well, you know, these things happen and oh, well, you know. No, that's not on my fucking watch. Sorry.
I love it. Don't worry. I've never heard that word before. Don't worry about it. Okay. So you're doing all this research. And so, but like they told you that it was an allergic reaction. Do you think at the time they thought that was it? Like, did the person who put it in the wrong vein go,
no.
Oh, shoot, I missed?
There's no way they don't know.
Okay.
No way they don't know.
And so, but you said some other things, like, even though they put it in the wrong vein, there were things they could have on hand to undo it.
Yes. Now, none of what I'm going to tell you is what we were able to hold people accountable on. Yeah. But these are things that happen, okay? So crash cart was not even remotely close. It was on the next floor, which why do you only have one freaking crash cart in a building anyway? Okay?
What's a crash cart?
Okay, a crash cart has everything that a doctor nurse would need in order to revive someone. So
if you're going to have surgery at the surgery center, make sure there's a crash cart next to your body going inside.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. That wasn't available. They also had the lipid reversal of the doctor that I found, that I discovered, that I researched with. They didn't have the proper dosage on hand. So it was like they sort of knew that they should, and actually they put in an order for it during the whole process to try to get that done, but they did not have any on hand, and not the correct. And then when they ordered it, it wasn't the correct dosage.
Okay, there's so the stuff you're talking about, just to be clear, so everyone understands, that drug that they ordered at the last minute when it was already happening was the drug that would have reversed the problem immediately.
Yes.
If they had it on hand, your husband would be alive.
Yes. This doctor teaches with my husband's story at a major anesthesia college. And it happens less today because of him and because not on my watch, but it still happens, and it's still important that you're an advocate. And the thing is that to be a medical advocate, you need to know things. First of all, you need to trust your intuition. You need to trust your gut. You need to not be led just because someone is wearing a white coat. Like if your body is saying no, that's a freaking no. And we're not just going to go do things just because somebody in a white coat tells us. The second thing is, to be an advocate, you really have to know your shit. You have to really understand what it is that you're going to do, and not just blindly go forward. And I am not somebody that, I trust people. I have deep trust for people and deep trust for humans. However, this is a human hand. And I want to know what's going on. And if there's a way to prevent it, then show me what the way is. And so in my research, I was able to uncover 5 questions for people to be able to ask in order to feel comfortable with doing any type of surgery that's going to require, especially because his was a local block, especially local anesthesia, to make sure that.
What's wrong? What's different about local versus unlocal? What's the difference?
General.
What's local?
Local is a specific injection. And so when you are doing shoulder surgery, it's usually applied to the upper clavicle. Okay. Now, if you have a ultrasound and you're able to actually look and see where you're placing that needle, then you're able to see if you're putting it in the vein. So you're not going to squeeze the injection into the system. You're going to recognize that it's in the actual vein, not in the muscle, and you're going to pull out. But those things have to be used. So that's another way, another thing that you can ask, which isn't on the cards. That I created these questions on cards. But the thing also is you can be an advocate and know what questions to ask, but do you know what answers you should be getting in order to feel confident and comfortable with that? So the first order of business is trusting your intuition, is allowing yourself to be an open channel so you can hear, is this a yes or is this a no? And 2, what can I ask? What should I ask? And what kind of answers should I get? So I found these 4 questions, and also then gave people the answers that they should receive. And if they don't get the answers and they don't feel confident, walk out. If you're not in immediate danger, walk out. The other thing to know is that at a surgical center, it's like a it's like they are what's the word for it?
Drive-through?
Yeah, that. But they are like construction workers. Like they're just they're not they're not employees of the building, and so the building itself isn't held liable or responsible, just the doctor.
Okay, so explain that in detail.
So what that means is that for whatever the doctor is insured with is what the doctor is insured of. Whereas if you're at a hospital and you have a surgery at the hospital is also liable. They're not contractors. That's what the word I was looking for. The doctors aren't contractors, they're actually employees of the hospital.
So sometimes if you go to the hospital, don't you get a separate bill from the doctor and separate bill from the hospital?
I don't know.
Does that mean the doctor is a contractor? Okay.
I'm sure that they have contracted doctors that go in and out of the hospitals as well. But what I knew in 2008 is that the surgical center is not liable. They're just a building that houses the contractors, whereas the hospital is the hospital. It is responsible too. It is responsible for who they're hiring as contractors. They're not just a place for the contractor to house and to operate.
Okay. That's good information.
Mm-hmm.
So when given the choice, choose the hospital.
Choose the hospital. Absolutely. Plus, everything is there. Everything should be there. You should be able to find a crash cart right outside the freaking door. It shouldn't be like, where's the crash cart? I don't know. I think it's back in the storage unit.
Can you go get it, please?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This is great information. When everything was said and done, did you end up having to fight them on it, or did they kind of go, yeah, we screwed up?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we screwed up.
They said that?
I mean, in one way or another, yeah.
That's nice. So they didn't go, no, you're wrong. Okay.
No, that was never,
So
that was never the, I wouldn't say they took full responsibility, but they didn't say I was wrong.
Did they, obviously you had a lawsuit and I'm sure you did okay with it. Did they ever apologize?
No.
Write a letter?
Nope. And I don't know if on their end they are told not to communicate or what.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, for a while, my in-laws weren't able to forgive. This wasn't about the doctor for me. This was any other human with any other human hand. This was about getting to the bottom of things and finding the truth, coming to the truth. I mean, essentially that's why we're here, is to reunite with truth and to hold people to that truth, especially when they have powerful tools like medicine that could actually kill you.
Did you ever forgive that doctor yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I had to.
How you did that?
I had to do that before we even went into any kind of discovery, because if I went in with unforgiveness on my heart, then I wouldn't have a clear mind.
Okay, so how do you do that? How do you be someone who just lost your husband, you're pregnant? How do you find forgiveness?
I think in that situation, I mean, I can give a whole process. I mean,
I'm just curious what your brain says, because everyone's different. And
what my brain says is that I think first and foremost, it's the compassion for people, the compassion for human hands, the compassion for we fuck up.
So that doctor or that kid or whoever was the anesthesiologist fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
He fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
And someone died.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean we can't forgive them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, even at that time, I knew enough to know that if I go into any further into the situation with unforgiveness on my heart, then that's doing damage to me. Mm-hmm. I was feeling imprisoned by it. When you don't forgive, okay, you're focused on that other person. That other person becomes your liability. It becomes your power. You're essentially giving them your power by focusing on what they've done wrong. And this is how human society works. We're focused on what they did wrong instead of the greatness inside of them or the greatness inside of what's going to happen, the outcome of all of this shit. And even this weekend, I'm like, gosh, I went this weekend with some friends, and I keep a pretty tight, I mean, I'm a life coach, and I do all of that, but I keep a pretty tight lid on my friends and who I surround myself with. But even being around just other people this weekend, I'm like, gosh, people are just a walking ball of resent and unforgiveness, and they're freaking dying and giving their power away to other people, and they don't even freaking know it. So I told my in-laws, I said, listen, I know that this shouldn't have happened. And I know that it's an injustice. But it's not going to do us any good. And it's definitely not going to do my children any good if we continue to make him the focus. He's not the focus. He's not the focus. The focus is on getting to the truth. The focus is on the amazing things that are going to come out of this. The focus is on Thor, not him. He's going to get his, but that's not my job. My job is to just seek truth and let it happen. Seek truth, let it happen.
So those questions you have, where are they located?
They're located. You can find them on Facebook at, if you search up Ask the number 4 Thor. Ask for Thor. There are 4 questions, 4 answers, so you can feel comfortable and also powerful. Because that's part of the problem too, is people just they feel powerless going into things.
Yeah, big time. I was just at a doctor a couple weeks ago, and I was in there, and I asked him a couple questions, and I didn't like his answers. And I was like, huh. And then the lady came back, and she goes, okay, take off your clothes, da, da, da. And I go, really? For this appointment? I was like, I felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, no, I'm not.
Right.
I didn't like him.
Right.
And I didn't like what he said. And I didn't like this.
Right.
So he came back in. He goes, oh, we don't want to do the exam. And I go, no, I'm good, actually. I compliment because I don't want to make anyone feel bad. I compliment, like, you know what? Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
I just don't think I need this, but you're awesome. See
Right.
you later.
Right.
And I went.
Exactly.
You got to listen to that intuition. And
100%.
a lot of us get embarrassed. Oh my God, if I leave, I'm going to be embarrassed. Fuck that.
Embarrassed or
yeah.
Or afraid that they're going to think you're a bad person. I mean, so much. But if we don't do that, what are we teaching our kids? We're teaching our kids to follow blindly. No. Mm-hmm. No. Mm-hmm. Nobody is going to be there to advocate for you more than you. So if you can't say no and your body's telling you no, if you have an ick inside and you can't trust the ick and you just follow blindly, you're going to end up in the basement with whoever that serial killer is.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah. God. That's a whole other ball of worms. But so it's so interesting though, because I do a lot of work with hospice because I'm very curious about life after death. And a friend of mine was working at a hospice center, and there was like 7 rooms. It was super sweet. And I said, there's nobody here. I said, do people come and visit these guys? And he's like, no, very few. It's like they've kind of written them off. They're headed to heaven. And it wasn't COVID. It was after. And it was just really sad.
It is sad.
It's like they need an advocate. And every time I have a relative going to the hospital, I'm like, I'm coming in. We're going to make sure you get water, ice, blankets. Everyone. So anyone who's hearing this, if you hear someone going to the hospital, you got time, you be the advocate. Go there. Go there when they're getting their cancer treatment. Go there and be there when they're after surgery. Someone needs to be there because sometimes you don't know who you're going to get. Yeah. And you want to make sure your people are cared for. Because without you, they're left to whatever happens.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, completely.
So how do you feel today about after everything that happened? Obviously, you've forgiven. Has your in-laws forgiven? I
believe so. I believe they have, because the way they live, they are very, very. They're mentors for other parents that have lost children, and they're just very loving and tuned people. So. I'm sure they have.
Because you're remarried now. Are they still in your life a lot?
Absolutely. We vacation together the whole bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask you questions about the other story, but we'll table that for another time. Because this is about this.
Yes.
Anyway, anything you can share with anybody about what you, like, because you listened to heaven. Yeah. You listened to the things around you. And you stuck to your guns to figure out what was going on.
Yep.
Instead of just calling this an allergy, because maybe the autopsy, you might get it back and just let it go anyway. Yeah. So the fact that you did something is truly amazing. What can you tell people who might think there's something wrong, but you had support Other people may not. Where do they, what do they do? Like, what do you suggest to them?
You know, what's coming up right now is no matter if you have that support or not, you could have everybody who thinks you're freaking delusional, crazy. I mean, think about 2020 and all the things 2020. If you didn't trust yourself, you're going to be led. You're going to be led, and you're going to get to the end. You're going to be like, I don't think I wanted to do this, but I did it anyway because everybody else was. You got to go the other way.
Yeah.
You have to be the one sometimes that goes against the grain, and it is not easy. It is not easy. People think you're crazy.
I built a whole business on that.
Exactly.
Because nobody does that.
Exactly. Nobody does that.
And loves.
Absolutely.
And that's what this is about.
Absolutely.
But you're a very wise woman, and I really appreciate your time, and I can't wait to help you with the other thing.
Thank you.
But we'll talk about that. Anyway,
Okay.
Thank you. Please go to Facebook, Ask for Thor. It's not FOR, it's the number 4 if you have any questions and you want to see what to ask your doctor, because that's so important.
Yes.
You're awesome. Thank you. You're
Thank you.
Amazing and so beautiful, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay. See? What did you learn? A lot, right? Make sure you subscribe here, and please, please pass this on to anyone that you think might need this. This stuff happens all the time. My husband used to work in the hospital realm. He says you could go into the hospital and not come out. And the percentage that happens, and he's not here, I wish I had the number, it's like it's a high percentage of people that go into the surgery and they may not come out, or they go into the hospital and they get sicker when they go in than if they were just to come out clean. It happens. Be an advocate for yourself, for your family. And please, please keep coming back here. Hit subscribe so you can help me grow this channel. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.